Take a look at this image. Now look at this photo, or these other ones. Can you tell what technique was used to create these photos? $170,000 from stock photography. Now I want you to keep in mind, this is not what I sold. This is how much I've received. If I was to do the 30% math of average commission, that means I've sold well over $500,000, but I received 170. The rest goes to the agencies. Now this might sound unfair, but you know, they're running the platforms, they're doing the marketing, they're finding the buyers. All they do is upload my photos and they sell. So how did this happen? Well, this did not happen in 1 year or overnight. This has been over 10 years. So the average I've made has been $16,000 a year uploading and selling photos through these agencies. Keep in mind that this is not my full-time job. I do this as a side job. I use my extra photographs when I'm learning a new technique. It has been many hours, thousands of photos, and a lot of trial and error. But this was when I was learning photography, because I started from zero. So I am happy to say that I've been through the journey and I've learned a lot about not only stock photography, but photography in general. But how did I make $170,000? Now this, I am not a financial advisor, I'll tell you that right now. I'm terrible with money, but I've learned a way to make some money with stock. The first thing I did with stock photography was the investment. I'm not talking about gear, I'm talking about time. Learning how to use the gear you have, learning where your gear excels and where it doesn't. But yes, there's also the importance of the gear you're using. I'm talking about my very first stock photography camera, which is the Canon 7D with the 50mm 1.4. If you watch any of my other videos, you know that I started with the Rebel T1i. And very quickly I realized this camera was not good for stock. So the one thing I want you guys to keep in mind is I started stock photography before YouTube was a thing. I watched quite a few videos learning how to do photography. Frono's Photos, Tony and Chelsea, they were teaching you how to do photography, but there was nothing specific on stock photography. Nowadays, fast forward to 2023, and there's a lot of people like me giving you tips and advice. So this is an advantage that everybody has today that we didn't have back then. I'm gonna share with you a personal story. Take a look at this image and let me know if you can see something that's not right with the photo. 3, 2, 1. There's no way this is one photograph. If you look at how sharp the glass is, and then the bokeh in the background is completely blown out, even right here on the table. That is not natural. This is a blend of apertures. So there are two photographs that I blended together to obtain that result. When I bought this lens, this is a 1.4 50mm, I thought the bokeh looked awesome. So when I was working at the bar, I would bring all the props home. And I remember this weekend, I took 500 photos for stock. All of them got rejected. Every single one got rejected for lack of focus. And I didn't realize that, I mean, yeah, it looked beautiful, but only 1 or 2 of the little drops were sharp. The rest was all completely out of focus. So then the next week, I brought all the props home again, and I shot 2 pictures. One at f11, which is the one you see here, and then one at 1.4, which is the background. Then I blended those in Photoshop and got the final result. I did this many times. You can see how many images I have that are the same. And some of these are my best sellers. Even today, there's some of my best sellers. Some of these, you can see I got a little lazy. I was just doing a gradient to blend the background to the front. And this one could have been better lit in the front, but it doesn't matter, it's still selling. Let me show you here one of the examples. So there you go, that's at f11 and that's at f1.4. Big difference in what's the background and the bokeh. Now, because it's a 50mm, the distance between your subject and the background and the subject and the camera has a lot to do with it. But these are things that I learned because I was doing stock photography. And like I said, I took a lot of photos. This was 500 images that got rejected. Not many people get 500 photos rejected and go back the next week and do it all over again. When you perfect the technique, do whatever you want with those images. Upload the best images to your portfolio so now you can show people what you can do. The next thing I did was take photos of everything. Again, I was learning how to use my camera, where it's best, where it's not. So I took photos everywhere I went. I took my camera. I was taking pictures of every single thing I could, outdoors, indoors, lighting, whatever was happening in my world, I was taking pictures of, and I was uploading those photos. I was, down low, different angles, the cat, the dog, whatever I could, I was trying to take photos of and then uploading. 90% of these photos never sold. They haven't sold, but that did two things. That grew my portfolio so that now people can find me through some of those photographs and then find the one that they want, and it gave me practice. We're working against an algorithm when we're talking YouTube, stock photography. All this is very similar. The more content you have out there, the easier someone's gonna find you. If you only upload 100 pictures, chances of them finding you is very difficult. So take your camera everywhere, take as many photos as you can, and upload as much as you can. That's how you're gonna get found. That's how some of your photos are gonna sell. I did an experiment and I wish I hadn't. From one of my agencies, I removed 90% of the photos I have never sold, and my sales tanked. So I don't recommend that. It's a numbers game. The more numbers you have out there, the easier it's going to be for buyers to find you. Even if they don't buy that specific picture, that might lead them to the one that they want. The next thing that I did was learn about what you're photographing. This is going to help you a lot when it comes to tags. I had an advantage here with the cocktails. I knew a lot about the ingredients, what goes in them, the colors, the garnishes, what they look like. So this helped me a lot because I already knew about the subject. I have a few thousand images of cocktails, and I made over $50,000 from drinks, and that's because I knew ingredients, I knew garnishes, I knew what looks good, I knew how to caption these things. So learn about the subject you're photographing, and that's going to help you find the right angles, find the use, and also find the right tags and descriptions so that your photos can be found. Remember editorials. Editorial images can be confusing, and for the longest time I never shot editorial, and this is because the captions were very difficult. Most of these agencies like Shutterstock have a very specific caption with the date, location, and what's happening in the scene. So I avoided this for like 3 years. I never wanted to do that because it was too complicated. And then I started doing it, and those photos have started selling. I've sold a lot of editorials of places, signs, people doing things outdoors. I don't have the model release, but I can sell it as an editorial. Editorial images are images that are showing what's happening in real life, events, news-worthy photographs that can represent time and space. I know every photo can do that. These are commercial pictures, but an editorial image is something more specific to what is happening and when. If you're shooting events at specific locations, some of the agencies are going to ask for press credentials. If you don't have them, then you can't do that. That was a mistake I made when I shot an Ironman in 2012. I was out there for 8 hours taking pictures of the whole event. Only one agency accepted the photos because I didn't have press credentials. You can pay for this. I'll put a link down below where you can get some of these credentials. Every country is different, but I'll put a link for those of you in the US just to give you an idea of how you get these. Editorial images can only be used in an editorial fashion. If you have a vlog and you're sharing what happens where at this time of day, you can use that as that would be an editorial use for that photo. If a news outlet wants to buy your photo or put it in a pamphlet to just show you what's happening in these places, that's an editorial use. You can't sell a product or sell a business using an editorial photo. Now, a commercial image can also be used as an editorial image. If you can get a model release and sell those as commercial images, and they could be used both ways. But if you can't get the model release or a property release, try uploading it as editorial. The next thing I want to talk about is thinking ahead and looking at the world and what's happening in the world. If we had a crystal ball and we could project ourselves into the next year, you could see the trends, then these are images that are going to be selling. But obviously we don't have that. We kind of have an idea if you follow the news, if you see what's happening in the world, and every country is different. We all have different opportunities. Just go out there and take pictures of what's happening. How do you represent what's happening in your world, in your country? And these are images that are going to be selling. If you look at trending news, trending articles, all of these people need photographs. The problem we have today in 2023 is that our trends are changing very quickly. Some trends used to last for years in the past. Now it seems like every couple of months there's something new. So we need to get out there quicker and get those images out there faster so that they can sell for those 2 months, and then we need something else. But that's just something that's gonna keep us out there taking pictures and uploading more and more to our portfolio, which is gonna generate more sales. This is something that I never did. I never tried to stay on top of things, but I see it more and more now. I made a video a few months ago when the price of eggs was ridiculous here in the US, and I did a few images. Some of those have been selling quite a bit. This is what I'm talking about. Anything that you see in the news, the fires in the West, the protests in whatever country they're protesting, upload those photos and these things are gonna start selling. Even if they're short-lived, at least you'll get some money up front. There's some images that are gonna sell for a very long time, like some of these, and then there's images that are gonna sell for the 2 months and then stop. Now, the last thing I wanna mention here is focus on your unfair advantage. What does this mean? Okay, so for me, my unfair advantage is a situation that I'm in that most other people are not. That gives me an advantage, and to most it would look like it's unfair because I'm in that situation and you're not. You're in situations that I'm not in, so use that to your advantage. Where you live, if it's the weather, if you live in a city and you have different things to photograph in that city. Look at this photo, for example. That was an unfair advantage. I took a picture of the Jeep on the tow truck because the Jeep broke down. Most people probably wouldn't think about taking a camera and doing pictures of that. What's happening in your life that you have the opportunity to make photos? When I twisted my ankle, I took a photo. That's an advantage I had. There's a sports injury that I'm probably not gonna see in real life, but it happened to me. My ankle was swollen. I took a picture and it's sold over and over again. So take advantage of your unique situation. Things that are happening in your life, in your backyard, in your circle. This is how I made $170,000 using stock photography to learn photography, focusing on what's important to me, and also taking advantage of my situation. You can do the same. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.